Welcome to Project Recovery, a podcast about addiction. More importantly, it's about recovery. And it's brought to you by our friends at Reprieve Recovery. It's all-female,
residential.
Yes.
Yep.
Up there in Morgan, beautiful Morgan, Utah.
Best county in the state.
Open less than a year, but already getting great success. We've had a couple of their clients reach out to us and say, hey, when we get a little more time underneath our belt, we'd love to come and share our story and tell you about all the good things they're doing up there at
I'm
Reprieve.
looking forward to having them on the show.
If you want to find out more about them, go to reprieverc.com, and they will give you all the information you need to know. I'm Casey Scott. I'm an alcoholic.
You don't say that very often.
You know what? I don't.
Yeah.
But I don't have a problem saying it. But I'm also not just an alcoholic.
That's true.
I'm a father. I'm a TV reporter. I'm a podcaster. I think
You're a good friend.
You're a good friend.
Thanks, buddy.
And that is Dr. Matt Woolley. He's a clinical psychologist. And normally in this first part of the podcast is when we kind of talk shop. We talk about things that are going on in my world of recovery, things that are happening to me and my family. Have I told you about Lake Powell?
Not really.
So I got the opportunity to go down to Lake Powell, and I went down with some old fraternity brothers, and they all brought their kids and their special someone or their spouses. There were 16 in total of us.
With your old fraternity brothers?
Yeah.
And they're all sober now?
No, they're not. There was probably 50.
It's hard not to say fraternity brothers and not conjure up images of drunken parties, because I think that's what's kind of associated in most people's heads with the idea. And I know that's not true. It's a stereotype. I know that.
But it's a pretty good stereotype.
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest with you.
Well, stereotypes don't come from nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the people that drank down on the Lake Powell trip was probably 50-50.
Oh, really?
There was half sober and half partying. Now, the partying never really got out of control because it was more of a family trip.
Yeah.
My buddy who plans the trip says, this one's about the family, and then they do another one in September where it's just adults.
Okay.
And I heard that one gets a little more ruckus.
You've never been?
I've never been invited to that one.
Really?
Yeah.
Even before?
No, because my relationship with the guy who invited me really got strained during my addiction.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't a fan. I caused too much chaos. And he was just one of those guys who said, I just don't need this in my life.
Enough's enough.
Yeah. You know what I mean? And
But he set a boundary.
yeah, he set a boundary, and he was pretty good at holding it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I got sober again, and that actually this was probably the first trip I've been on with him since I've been sober.
Oh, really?
And so it was kind of cool.
How'd you guys get along?
Wonderful. Okay. I mean, it was amazing, and our kids are great friends, and we went down there and we had a blast. And my daughter Frankie was like, "Dad, do you even know how to be on a boat?" Because I grew up on a boat. I grew up going down to Lake Powell, but my kids have never really seen me on a boat because a lot of those years it was drinking and working, and life was in the way, and that just wasn't in the cards for us at the time.
Yeah.
And now my kids do wake surfing with their stepdad and my ex-wife, and they've been down to Lake Powell with them a couple of times.
They just never seen you man a boat.
And to be honest, that hurt me a little bit because I always thought that I was going to be the one to teach them how to wake surf, to teach them how to water ski, to be able to show them the night sky at Lake Powell. And sometimes those things really cut deep and really hurt me that because of my addiction and the choices that I have made have opened up the door for somebody else to give my kids those experiences.
Yeah.
I'm very grateful for my kid's stepdad. He's a neat guy. He's a very good guy, and he treats them wonderfully. And I couldn't ask for anybody better to be able to be there with my kids if I can't be there.
That's a big deal.
And so I've got a great relationship with my ex-wife. We send videos back and forth, whether we're doing fun stuff with the kids so they can see them doing stuff. And so the whole time down there, I'm sending my ex-wife videos of the kids wake surfing, jumping off cliffs, holding fishes, and that kind of stuff. And then that was cool. But I was sitting down there, and if for those who are listening out of the state, Lake Powell is absolutely...
Oh, it's one of the most beautiful places you can visit in your life.
It's like God came down and went, boom, and just made this magical, beautiful, perfect place.
Yeah, it's amazing.
The red rocks, the night skies, the water, the canyons. I mean, it really is a place that is just designed for families to get out there and unplug and just enjoy this wonderful place we call Earth.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. And so I'm sitting on top there, and I got all these opportunities to have these one-on-one moments with all of my kids. And, you know, I mean, it was one of those things that I thought 6 years ago, I never imagined that this would be able to happen. You know, I mean, I never thought I'd be in a position to be able to take them down and still, while they're young, talk to them and teach them some things about their dad. And I remember Frankie going, "Dad, can I be honest with you?" And I was like, "Yeah, honey, go ahead, be honest." She goes, "I used to think you were just kind of crazy cool and unique." And I go, "Thanks." And she goes, "But turns out your friends are just like you." You know?
You're not the only one.
You're not the only one. Because this was the first time that she'd been really around my friends, my collegiate friends, my best friends, my ride or dies. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Where we're all under one roof and having a good time and throwing each other crap and bringing up stories and all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. And it was cool because although they saw some parents drinking and having a good time, they saw me sober. They saw me waking up in the morning and I worked out with the kids on the boat. Yeah. And I would make breakfast and do these things. And so I don't think my kids were ever worried about my sobriety.
Yeah.
You know, they're not, at least that they told me. But they got to see me in my element. Yeah. With my friends and being me. The way that I've always thought I could be without alcohol. I mean, I was still
pretty cool.
Dancing. I was still running the DJ booth. I was still, you know, and she's like, she goes on her Instagram Snap or whatever it is and is like, "Do you think my dad will get up for his first time on wake surfing?" And she puts this quiz out there. And I go, what are the people saying, honey? And she's like, "Everybody's saying no." Yeah. And I was like, "Well, they're wrong." She's like, "You're not going to get up. You got a fake hip, Dad." And I go, "I bet you dimes to dollars." She goes, "Dad, nobody says that." I go, "I bet you dimes to dollars I will get up the first time." Yeah. Hopped in the water. Hit it. Popped right up.
Did you really?
Yes, I did.
Nice.
And then I fell in love with it. And the whole way home, I'm telling my girlfriend, I was like, "I think I need a boat." She goes, "You don't need a boat."
No, you're going to get a boat.
I was like, "I think I need a boat."
I know that look in your eye.
But I guess in a long roundabout way, because I wasn't even really going to talk about this, that is another thing that recovery has given me. Mm-hmm. That I never thought I would have again. And it was a lifetime experience with my children, being able to be me and show them that I'm there for them. I mean, it really was probably one of the most, and I've been on some really cool trips. We just got back from the Dominican Republic. Mm-hmm. And this trip blew that one completely out of the water. Yeah. This was just the most magical, beautiful time with all my kids.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it.
And if you can ever get a chance to go down to Lake Powell, whether it's a houseboat or just on the beach or just renting a boat and driving through, take it.
It's amazing. Yeah, I've had some wonderful times on Lake Powell, and it is a very unique place.
We took some fireworks down there because it was over the 4th of July.
Right on.
Lit up the sky.
Dude, yeah.
Boats from down the canyon were applauding. Woo! I mean, it was...
Well, as I recall, you took a lot of fireworks down. It wasn't a little bit. Yeah. It wasn't the small pack from the grocery store.
No. But it was amazing, and so it was good.
Let me make a comment.
Yeah.
So you started this off by saying, "I'm an alcoholic," which you don't usually say, and I called you out on a little bit. And that kind of led us where we went. But focus determines your reality. What we focus on. Thoughts, feelings, behaviors. How I think determines how I feel and what I do. So you've just described two different types of focus here. One focus that's we shouldn't ignore is because of your addiction, you open the door to someone else to have some of these fun experiences with your kids, teach them boating and things like that. Mm-hmm. And that could be kind of a sad, regretful, hurtful focus. The other focus is because of recovery, you're able to have the best time of your life being your authentic self with your friends and your kids and modeling to them a good time does not need to include things like drugs and alcohol. Because if I know anything about Casey Scott, having a good time is in your soul. And being able to model that, so your focus could be addiction and what that took away, or recovery and what that gave you. And I think focus determines reality. And if I know you as well as I do, I know your focus most of the time is that recovery has given me everything. So I think that's an important distinction.
It's given me a shot at
consider.
it. And so, when I say I am an alcoholic, I am.
Yeah.
And I've got to give that respect. As soon as I don't give it respect is when I start losing the battle.
Right.
And so, although I am an alcoholic, I am. And so then I go on and tell you about this wonderful trip because I'm more than just an alcoholic. Well, and so that's that. So
right.
I was like, yeah, I am an alcoholic, but I'm also this. And this is what I'd rather focus my energy on. I've got to respect that I'm an alcoholic, and I've got to own that, because if I don't, that's when I get caught.
Right.
But it's not all that I am.
And it's not, yeah, I'm with you. You acknowledge it, you own it, you respect it. But focusing on recovery, I mean, just think about what you described with your kids. You weren't doing any of that when you were in your addiction.
No. I would have been, we would have had fun on the trip, but
there would have also been some not so good times.
And probably towards the end, it wouldn't have been a good time for anybody involved,
right,
because I was just out of control.
Car ride home might have been a little tense.
Well, yeah, it would have been me listening to music by myself while everybody ignored me. Yeah. Because I made an ass out of myself, or I hurt someone's feelings, or I did this, or I did that.
Yeah.
But this time we could drive home, we could stop and get gummy worms, we can do whatever we want, and it was a blast.
Good for you, man. I'm excited. I'm glad. That makes me happy.
We've got a wonderful show for you today. His name is Kolby Burdett. How you doing, buddy?
Good, how you doing?
It's always interesting to have somebody here who doesn't have a ton of sobriety underneath their belt. You looked at your phone right before you walked in. How many days do you have?
147 today.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And in order to get 6 to 10 years, you have to get those 147 days.
Absolutely.
I remember when I first got into the rooms, the AA rooms, while I was in recovery, this old timer stood up and said, hey, listen, if you don't have more than 2 years of sobriety underneath your belt, please don't get up on the mic. And I remember thinking to myself, that seems a little weird, because I've got 3 days under my belt right now, and I want to know how the guy who got to 6, and the guy at 6 wants to know how the guy who got to 9. And that was each room's got a different feel, but that was that guy's, kind of rules for his meetings. How do you feel like you do it 147 days? Do you feel like you listen more or you talk more?
I'm a listening guy. I don't speak up a whole lot. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So I'm the listening guy. So if I'm in a meeting or in a treatment center, I listen more than I speak.
Now, I can see that as a benefit and a negative, because I remember when I was in recovery, I thought I would do a lot more listening than speaking. But if you don't speak for yourself...
I just think that's funny because I know you.
Yeah. But mine was more is because I was going to hide.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was just going to listen. You know what I mean? And then I didn't have to own anything. I didn't have to talk anything. You know what I mean? I didn't have to share anything. I was just
be a passenger
and just be a fly on the wall. But in recovery, and you've got to work through some stuff, and eventually you got to find your voice. Do you think you found your voice?
Yeah, if I need to share, if the feeling comes over me and I feel like it's a subject that I could offer some advice on or something like that, I will definitely speak. But I'm not just going to be out there talking just to talk.
Well, we're going to find out about Kolby Burdett throughout the rest of this podcast. Stick around. You're listening to Project Recovery. Welcome back to Project Recovery. I'm Casey Scott. That's Dr. Matt Woolley. And this second half is brought to you by our friends at Big O Tires. They got their summer sizzling sale going on right now. They'll give you $100 off the Big O brand tires themselves. So go in there and check them out. Plus, if you're getting ready to go on a road trip, stop by the Big O Tires, and they will make sure everything's up to snuff and that you're good to go, so you're not going to be caught out of town with your car breaking down. Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one, huh?
It's true if it rhymes. I've said that my whole life.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
I love alliteration.
I know you do.
I really do. Our guest today is Kolby Burdett. How you doing, buddy?
Good, how you doing?
147 days of sobriety.
Yes, sir.
Where does the story of Kolby begin?
Layton, Utah. I was born in Ogden and raised in Layton. And story starts very young.
How old are you right now?
I am 41.
How young does it start?
About 12 years old.
You think that's when you had your first drink of alcohol?
Absolutely.
Do you remember it pretty vividly? Like, I remember when I was a young kid trying alcohol. It might have been a sip of beer from my dad. You know what I mean? I remember in 7th grade is when I really had the intention of getting drunk, but I don't remember my first taste of alcohol.
I do. I was in a friend's garage, about 12 years old. They kept a red wine, a box of red wine in their garage, and then his father.
Good wine comes in a box.
Terrible wine. And then his father kept all the beer next to that, and we started just taking little drinks of red wine in his garage, and then it just progressed from there.
Do you remember the taste? Because red wine, I'm an alcoholic, and I think red wine sucks.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
Terrible. Not a wine guy. Yeah, it's just bitter and dry. Very bitter, very dry.
But did you get a euphoric feeling, or were you just doing it for the excitement of, hey, we're doing something we shouldn't be doing?
At that time, it was just definitely for the excitement. Yeah, we're breaking the rules. We're trying Dad's alcohol, you know, and it progressed from there.
When do you think the first time you got drunk was?
My 6th grade summer, so I was 12 years old still.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Yeah, we had friends, or my friends' parents, they had to work, so they were never home, and we had the summers off, you know. And yeah, we were 12 years old, and we snuck into their liquor cabinet, and I don't know how, but at 12 years old, we knew how to make screwdrivers. We knew that we could mix vodka and orange juice, and that was a drink. And we started mixing screwdrivers at 12 years old.
And do you remember the day after?
So a couple times I remember, you know, just getting that buzz, and that's where we'd kind of keep it, right? We'd get a little buzz, and then we'd go smoke cigarettes, right? My buddy's house was up in East Layton, and at the end of their street there was like what we called the hollow. It's just undeveloped land, and we're up in the mountains, so. And we'd go back there, smoke cigarettes, and drink our mixed drinks, and it just started from there, and the party did not stop. It just kept going.
What does that mean? I mean, by that point, are you partying on the weekends? Are you partying daily?
At that point, we're just sneaking into alcohol every opportunity we got.
And that was kind of like my childhood. It wasn't something that was like we were doing every time, but if we had access to it,
right,
we were not going to say no.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And, you know, so if
there's probably an element of like trying to be cool, getting away with something, acting like the people, you know, older people. I mean, I think most kids who are 12 and 13, you're coming into adolescence. And so there's literally a psychological and biological awakening or change that happens. And, you know, when you're 8 or 9 or 10, you might be more focused on, you know, comic books, cartoons, that kind of stuff that's just what you like. But then something happens when you're 11, 12, 13, when puberty hits, and you all of a sudden are aware of this bigger world and, you know, what are the cool people doing? And all of a sudden you want to be kind of cool. I think most early elementary kids don't really care about being cool. They want to have friends, but it's more like they're into what they want to be into. So I think it's pretty typical, like that, wanting to snitch a little wine and get away with things and smoke a cigarette. Like, cigarettes stink. Like, there's no reason a 12-year-old wants to smoke a cigarette except for to kind of be cool, you know, like an actor or an older brother or somebody that you see, right?
And that's true now for anybody who smokes a cigarette.
Yeah,
I mean, they stink. I used to be a smoker. I can tell you right now, if you smoke cigarettes, you stink.
Oh, yeah. There's no way not to.
Yeah, you stink. But if it keeps you sober, I get it. But no, you stink.
Yeah. You know. Well, it's an addiction as well.
Yeah. What was your parents' philosophy on drinking?
My parents, they got divorced when I was very young. I might have been a year and a half years old when my parents divorced. So my dad I just didn't see him a whole lot growing up. You know, he'd come get me here and there when he thought it'd be appropriate on the weekends. My mom was an RN. She was a nurse, and she was raising 5 of us. And so she was gone, like 12-hour work days every day. So just the amount of supervision I got it just wasn't a lot. You know, I was being raised kind of by my sisters because my mom had to work so much. And so I was just unsupervised a lot.
Back in our day, we called those latchkey kids. Do you remember that latchkey kid
Oh, yeah.
thing? Yeah.
That's the same thing, but now it's garage code kids.
Garage code kids, yeah.
You know
there
what I mean?
go.
Where you came home from after school,
Yep.
you could
Punch
put
it in.
Yep, and then
Door opens.
Yep,
Go home.
fridge, TV, and then hopefully mom came home.
Yeah, and you know what? That's a tough one because I think about people like your mom and how hard that is, being a single mom raising kids. I mean, I don't know if there are harder jobs in the world. And so it's tough to always be able to have your kids have supervision. It's a tough situation to be in.
Knowing what you know now, you probably have a little bit of a different appreciation for what your mother went through.
Absolutely. I mean, by no means am I talking about my mother. She did the absolute best she could. I did what I did because of the kids I was hanging around with and just opportunity.
Yeah.
She never knew. She never knew.
So you never really got in trouble for drinking at a young age?
I did, but not like into like 16, 17 into my high school days. And I started getting in some trouble with the law for sure. But I was a juvenile.
So you started at 12, and you said that you kept the party going. So you felt like alcohol played a major factor in your growing up, your younger years.
Yes, alcohol played a factor in everything I did. As soon as I got into high school is when it really took off. We just had unlimited access to alcohol. I had a particular friend in high school. His uncle worked for Budweiser. He drove Budweiser trucks, and any cargo that got messed up or dented or scratched or what have you,
$5 cases.
out of the back of his car.
No,
In high school.
I know. I worked for him. I did the same. Yeah.
Exactly. So my buddy would.
Oops, dropped it again.
Yep.
That's another one.
He would open his garage, and 16, 17-year-old teenagers, we'd go over there, $5 a case, just like you said.
Yeah.
And we'd get enough cases for the entire weekend. And that kind of access just it's going to be a disaster at some point.
And we're going to find out about that a little later on in the podcast. But how did the rest of your high school career go?
It got very interesting in my junior year. I got my girlfriend pregnant, which turns out today is my current wife. And that just pushed me in the path of addiction.
Now, it's weird that that's what pushed you in the path of addiction, because others would say that would steer you in the right to recovery.
Yes, it steered me in the path of addiction because I didn't know what to do. I was about to be a 17-year-old father, and the anxiety and the stress and just all of that, I just started using alcohol.
To cope.
Cope with this. I didn't know how to deal with the feelings. Right? My friends are like, "You're gonna be a dad? Oh, you got your girlfriend pregnant? Oh my God!" And I would just, what are these feelings? And I would drink.
Now, Dr. Matt, I'm guilty of that same practice. You know what I mean? And I think most
people are.
addicts are. You know what I mean?
Most people are. It may not always be alcohol. It might just be, soda from the local drive-through. But, people like to numb their feelings. That's hard. And at 17, that's when we're learning coping skills and we're learning how to manage things. And so that's one of the reasons that big stuff like unplanned pregnancies as adolescents, it's overwhelming and you need help. So that's, you did the only thing you knew. You're like, well, I know that when I drink, it kind of takes me away from this stressful world. And now the world just got a lot more stressful.
Yeah. So at 17, you become a father.
Mm-hmm.
And do you guys get married? What does that look like?
Not right away. What it looks like is I got to finish off my junior year, go through the summer. The girlfriend's very pregnant, and she gives birth in my senior year in November. And now I'm juggling. I need to graduate high school, and I should probably get a job too. And the substance abuse progressively just got worse. I didn't know what to do. Young father, and so I just kept partying. I kept drinking. I kept avoiding my duties.
Your wife happy with you at this time, or because it's different for her too? Because now she's probably got the child living with her full time, or is it?
No, I mean, there were times where she would be like, you should probably slow down. maybe you don't need to go to this house party tonight, graduate high school. And I didn't listen. I never listened. So, yeah, she was probably not happy with my behavior.
So you end up graduating high school.
I did.
Then what does life look like?
Get a job, right? I got a child to support, so get a job. And I was still more interested in partying. 19, I couldn't hold down the job. I just wanted to drink. The party had to go on. And that's what we did. I moved out, got an apartment with my wife and my daughter, and tried to make a go of it. But I just wanted to party every single night. I just wanted to keep drinking. And
was it hard to look around you at your friends, same age friends that were, had the freedom to party or freedom to do what they didn't have the responsibility of a significant other and a baby? Like, was that a hard thing to manage?
Yeah, it was definitely hard.
Does it cause resentment?
Yeah, looking back, figuring out what resentment even means. Yeah, there was resentment. Like, why me? Why did I get my girlfriend pregnant? Why did I have the baby? And they didn't. Why do they get to go on with their lives and go to college, and I gotta go to work every day? So yeah, it caused some resentment.
And that's kind of a special kind of difficulty, because I would imagine there's a flip side to that, right? Like, on the other hand, you have this cute little baby and you have this relationship, and there were probably times, I'm assuming, where you had that, that dichotomous feeling of like, I resent having to be here, why me? And I like being here, and this is great. But the immaturity, no offense, just being the age, 18, 19, we're all immature by design. We don't know how to handle those sort of competing, needs and feelings. It's hard. It's more than most people can handle at that age.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking back, the adolescent brain at work, and the feelings I was experiencing, or the emotions, and then just drowning them with alcohol. It delayed my maturity level as going forward as an adult in the world. Sometimes I don't feel like I've even caught up yet to this day.
Well, at 18, you're still 5 to 6 years away from your brain even being fully developed. And that's a real thing. And the last part of our brain to develop is the most human part. It's the executive function, the frontal lobes. That's still the cells are there, but they're wiring, And so the part where we make judgment, reason, focus, decision-making, all that kind of stuff, right. The important stuff.
Impulse control.
Yeah. And so not only do you have stress and adult responsibilities that you're not even wired for yet, but alcohol slows down that process of the brain wiring. So that's a tough time in your life, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask this question. I can, because I'm an alcoholic. When did you first realize you might have a problem with alcohol? Because I asked that question because you've mentioned 5 or 6 times up to this point where alcohol was a problem, but I don't think you've ever admitted that it was a problem. Like, I mean, I can say that because I remember when I was like, well, this is a problem, and people were like, really? That was when you knew it was a problem? Because we've been watching you for years, and there's been a lot of reasons that should have been cause for concern. And so what point did you say to yourself that alcohol might be a problem?
I can tell you exactly when it clicked in my brain, like, whoa, we have a problem. I was 21 years old. I was walking through a Costco doing some grocery shopping, and I just had this feeling, this need, this want. I was lightheaded. I was a little dizzy, and my body wanted something. It wanted something. I couldn't figure out what it was. And now back then I did smoke a little bit. And so after I got a Costco, I lit up a cigarette, and the feeling, the need, it didn't go away. It was something else. It wasn't nicotine. It wasn't a cigarette. What is this thing, right? So I get home, and I unload all the groceries, and I just bought a case of beer at Costco. And I also had some beer in the fridge. And when I got home, I cracked a beer. And by the time I finished that beer, that feeling had kind of settled down. And then by the time I got 2 to 3 in me, the feeling was gone. And that's when my brain made the connection, like, we have a problem.
Withdrawal symptoms.
Yes. Yep.
So at 21, addicted to alcohol.
Absolutely.
How long does the party go on? When does it get bad, or what are some of the things, the milestones that you pass that you never thought you would pass?
The party always went on. I would find any excuse I could to drink. I would manipulate any circumstance to make it be in my benefit, so I could get to alcohol.
I used to do that, where I would say, I'm going to say this, she's going to say this, and then I'm going to go, well, I'm going to go drink.
Yep.
And it's going to be your fault.
Yeah.
Knowing darn well that I have manipulated and set up this whole argument and conversation, so the end result is me going to get a beer. Done that, huh?
More times than I can count. I have manipulated situations to be in my favor. I made a whole life of it. Everything, every work, around the family, everything revolved around alcohol.
At any point, you said you had siblings. You're one of 5.
Yes.
Has any of them at this point came to you and said, hey, Kolby?
My siblings?
Yeah.
My youngest sister, Kellen. Yeah, we've had several talks. Most of them were while I was intoxicated, because if I was going through a tough time or something, sometimes I would end up at her house, and she'd be like, you got to reel this thing in. You have a problem. So yeah, but the rest of my family, I'm sure they know. They've never said anything to me because I've always been pretty independent. I bought my first house when I was 21. Always had the cars, the trucks. From the outside looking in, you wouldn't know that I had a problem if you weren't around me every day.
Because you were checking all the boxes.
Checking the boxes.
Yeah.
Even the career, checking the boxes.
And that's a thing that sucks, because as addicts, we are so good at getting what we want. The same thing that makes us a good addict makes us a good business person, makes us a good student. You know what I mean? It's the all or nothing mentality.
Yep.
Right.
And so, I mean, you're like, and then you start to lie to yourself. You're like, but if I was really an alcoholic, would I have this job? Would I have this truck? Would I have this?
Start justifying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's like,
I have this, I did that.
and then at some point, you probably told somebody, hey, how many alcoholics you know have this, and this?
Absolutely.
Because you don't.
Absolutely.
So I'm not an alcoholic.
Every day I would tell myself that. I would wake up every day and be like, hey, I have this great career. I do well. I have this beautiful family. I drive the truck I want. I have the house I want. I live where I want. I would tell myself all the time, like, I don't sleep under a bridge. I can have these drinks. I can do this. And in the meanwhile, you're not noticing it's all crumbling down.
Mm-hmm. So you said that at 21, you're 41 now. Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you have been battling this disease for the majority of your life.
Yeah, my whole adult life. Yep, my whole adult life.
What did you do with that? You had that moment of insight for after the Costco where you're like, oh, I think I have a problem. So did you, kind of stuff that back down? Did you contemplate it? Just because we know something, having insight, it's kind of what we do with it that makes a difference, right? What do you think you did with it?
Let me guess. You just accepted it. You know what I mean? That's the choice. Is I can dive into this and figure it out, or I just go, this is the new norm, and I'm addicted.
But I think the stereotype of so people who don't have drug and alcohol issues have, we sort of blame them for having this stereotype of, the addict is somebody who sleeps in the park or under the bridge and all that. But I think addicts use that stereotype to keep themselves in the process of addiction as well, because I'm not as bad as the worst case scenarios, the people that are sleeping under the bridge.
I'm not like them.
So I'm not really an addict. I just have a little bit of a problem.
I'm different.
I'm different and special.
I'm unique.
Yeah.
Not like them.
Yeah, and it's
Those guys
easy.
are addicts.
It's easy to look at our successes and use those as excuses to keep doing unhealthy behaviors.
Addicts are master manipulators, and not only at manipulating others, manipulating ourselves.
Maybe ourselves the most.
There were
right?
lies that I got so good at telling myself that if you put me on a polygraph, I'd be like, that's how it went down.
Yeah.
Because, it's dumb.
It's the George Costanza rule.
Yeah.
It's not a lie if you believe it.
Yeah. And there was a lot of lies
Yeah.
I believed that I told myself.
Yeah.
So you got to get in some trouble sometime, or do you not?
I do in my juvenile years, like in high school. Yeah, I got into some trouble, but they weren't generally alcohol related. They were just I did run into law enforcement here and there, but it wasn't because of my substance abuse. It was because of other activities that I were involved in. Honestly, as an adult, no, I don't get into any trouble with law enforcement.
But your wife is still okay with your partying ways, or does it start to drive a wedge between you?
It drives a wedge, but it's just later down the road. Like in the beginning, in my early 20s, it may have been a big issue for her, but she just wasn't very vocal about it. Back then, the
And to be honest, a lot of Utahns get married at a young age, and so nobody really knows what to expect. Or
Well, you
what
don't
life
know
is.
yourself even by
You know what I mean? So it's just like, well, maybe this is what it is.
Yeah, maybe that's how it's supposed to be.
I mean, like, I don't know.
They always say, couples fight, marriage is hard, you got to work at it. And I think those misconceptions, make us, just accept a less than positive result.
Well, it's kind of like him when he found out that he was addicted to alcohol. I mean, you can either do the dive into it and see why it is, or you go, I just accept it. Okay, This is the new norm.
Yeah, to me, at the beginning, it was like being addicted to smoking. Like, okay, well, I'm addicted to alcohol, so I got to have a drink when I get off work, and I got to have a couple drinks, and then it just keeps progressing.
Where does it progress to?
To where I'm at currently today, in treatment, and just going through the steps.
So on the podcast, and maybe you don't have one, but you probably have some version of it. There's a rock bottom, there's a turning point, there's an aha moment that lets people know, hey, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I don't want to live like this anymore, so I'm ready to try something else. What did your moment look like?
My moment looked like being separated from my wife and kids. I went on a pretty good bender, about a 2-weeker. Wake up, drink, pass out. Wake up, drink, pass out. And I did that for about 2 weeks. And then just woke up one day and I was like, oh my God, look where you're at. You're separated. You're not living with your family, and you've missed a lot of work, and you're just miserable. Just freaking miserable. And that was my moment when I was like, I gotta get some help. Everything I built, it crumbled down. Mm-hmm. It's a mess, and you're a mess, and that was the moment.
So where does somebody like you, or where did you go for help? Where was your first stop?
I just got up on one day that on one of those days of my benders. I just woke up and I was like, I didn't know about treatment centers. I didn't know about AA. I didn't know about anything. I just Googled. I just literally got on my phone. I Googled AA meeting. And where I'm staying at right now, there happened to be a meeting about 3 miles from my place. And I just walked in there. And I was still intoxicated when I got there.
But that's okay. I mean, they'll tell you there. You're only they only ask of you is your willingness and want to quit.
Yep. So I got to an AA meeting, and I put together about 30 days of sobriety at that point. And then things just weren't going my way.
What does those first 30 days look like? I mean, I imagine it's lonely. You're going to a place that you never even knew existed, let alone 3 miles from where you're staying. And you go in there. I mean, do you feel like an outsider? Are they welcoming? What does it look like?
couldn't figure out what was going on. I just saw chairs and a couple of benches, and people were sitting in a circle, ish, and they're talking about how happy they are. So it doesn't look what I think it should look. It doesn't look like what it does on TV, talking about all the misery and all the screw ups. These people are happy. And they're talking about giving up alcohol is the best thing I ever did. All these blessings in my life keep happening, and I'm broke. And I'm not happy. I'm not happy at all. I'm low. And I was like, I want what these people have. And that's what it looked like for me. Like, they're happy, I'm not. What do I got to do to get happy? And that's when I started this journey in recovery. Was that meeting.
I think we just need to pause for a second on how powerful that is. I mean, that simple statement, I want what they have. I mean, I don't know if there's anything more motivating and powerful in a person's life than to be in that moment and realize I don't have what I want, what I need.
Well, he says it. I'm broke.
Yeah.
And I'm going in here thinking these guys are going to talk about how miserable they are.
That is how it is on TV, right, Cody?
What you see on TV.
Yeah.
I go in there and these guys are happy and talking about blessings and how giving up alcohol was the best thing that ever happened to him.
Yeah.
And his thought was, I want what they have.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you keep going back. And so after 30 days, do things get better?
No, because I wasn't ready yet. Like, I got my 30-day chip. I was like, woohoo, I'm cured. Things were a little bit better, right? Because you've been sober 30 days and it's enough to detox off the alcohol and all that. And then, things weren't going. I was in marriage counseling and trying to work things out. And they were going good for a little bit, and then things derailed like a month later, and then
you relapsed?
Yeah, but I didn't even know what a relapse was then. Like, I'd never heard the word relapse, so I didn't know that I had relapsed. I just started where I left off, and I just started drinking again, and then we went about so that was like March, April to 2023. And then I drank all the way until December 2023. And then that's when I found the treatment center that I'm currently enrolled in. And that's when things really started to change, when I started to figure out what recovery is, what's involved, the steps to achieve sobriety. That's when it all really started to click. And
you're talking about action recovery?
Yes, sir.
And we've had a lot of people, Lizzie and Whitney, they've got an amazing program up there in South Ogden. But off air, you were telling me that you found a community there. Although you had seems like a pretty decent experience with the 12-step rooms, but you found somewhere where you really connected. Yeah, I found, in recovery they talk about you need to find your tribe, right? You find your tribe. Find your people, and that's what I found. The action, I found my tribe, and it just starts to click up there. I mean, they have a really, really elite program up there. I mean, it's not an inpatient. There's no 30 days there, right? They got a outpatient and a day group, and I've put in some time. I think so. It started to click when a person tells me that. I know that what they're meaning is they're learning something, they're making connections, things start to make sense. So I think you were probably like so many people out there, you were just uneducated about addiction, recovery, you didn't know the word relapse, those kinds of things, thinking 30 days I'm cured sounds a little silly, but it's not. I mean, it makes sense, right? A person, like if you're not educated on how all this works, then you'd be like, well, hey, I haven't
gone 30 days since high school.
Right.
I'm over it now.
Well, how many people sign up for an inpatient treatment for 30 days thinking that that's
Same
gonna be
thing.
it?
Yeah, they're like, okay, I'm good now.
And that's what the insurance gives you. So that's what the insurance says it should take. So
Right.
somebody who doesn't have an addiction, like an ex-wife or an ex-husband or a husband or a wife, goes, well, they gave you 30 days. If you can't fix this in 30 days, how much longer?
So just as a side
time
note,
do you need?
if you're thinking in alignment with your insurance company, something's wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll just tell you that right now. But I think it's important that people recognize the value of being in a place where you can learn from experts, right? And it sounds like your eyes lit up when you talked about action recovery. I can tell that you've learned a lot there, haven't you?
Yeah, their program is different. I mean, if there's anybody that's going to listen to this, potentially reach out to Action, give them a shot. I promise you, it is not like any other treatment program out there, because we have people there and they've been to 3 or 4 or 5 different treatment centers, and from their own mouths, after they've put in about 60 days in there, somewhere in that range, they just say this place is different.
Good.
And I think we say on the podcast all the time, the opposite of addiction isn't abstinence, it's connection. And you have found that connection there. Now, this is what we were going to talk about at the first of the show, because we were having this conversation earlier. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying anything bad about Action. I'm not saying anything bad about Pinnacle. I'm not saying anything bad about Wasatch. Okay? All of these recovery centers, for the most part, are going to teach you the same things. They're going to talk about...
They have experts there.
And they've got talks about the 12 steps. They're going to show you. Like, a lot of this information, to be honest with you, is free.
It's available
On the internet, wherever you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. The thing that's going to be the difference, and this is just my beliefs, there's 2 things that are going to make the difference. One is connecting with your tribe, like he said.
Yeah.
Finding people that you connect with.
The good fit.
That makes sense.
Yep.
And that's what all those different recovery centers are going to have. They're going to have different people. They're going to have different vibes. They're going to have different things going.
Yeah.
The other thing is, and he demonstrated it on this second time go around, the willingness to accept the change. Mm-hmm. Those are the 2 main factors in it. You got to find somebody you connect with, somebody that's going to be able to help you through this process.
Yeah.
And another one is admit that there is a problem and be willing to do whatever it takes to make it right.
Yeah, that personal motivation is like, that's the fuel that lights the fire, right?
There is people that want to go to the Cirque Lodge, which is the premier, one here in Utah. Fancy. They got helicopters, they got back rubs and all that stuff. Is it a nice place? Yes. Are they teaching you anything that Action's not? Probably not.
Probably not. Yeah.
And Wasatch, it's a wonderful facility.
I have a good young friend that just started working in Fit to Recover. And man, the fit has been excellent for him.
Yeah.
And he's tearing it up. He's doing great. But it's a great fit. That exercise program is that's his language.
And so where, Kolby's talking about Action Recovery, which is an amazing program, and we love everybody up there.
Oh, yeah.
But you connected with those people down there. You found your tribe.
I did.
And you're motivated, it sounds like.
Yeah, I'm very motivated. There's a quote outside my office at the bottom of the staircase on a whiteboard, and it says, "Don't look back. We're not going that way." So
that's a good.
Yeah,
I love it.
I've kind of taken that quote and just ran with it.
What would you say? So talking about connection, good fit, finding your tribe. So we also talk about modalities or types of things we do that are treatment related. AA is a type of modality, and exercise, DBT. There's lots of treatment modalities.
Meditation.
What do you think, just for the listener, so far in your recovery journey, what have been some good modalities, things that really work for you?
Tools.
Okay. My tools consist of mostly physical activities. I've been in and out of the weight room for a long time. I love to lift weights, so I try to get to the gym 3 to 4 days a week, but it is a little tighter right now with my schedule, because I do go up to Action at 5:30 and I'm there till 8:30. So between getting off work and going up there, I try to get to the gym with my son. I just got back from Lake Tahoe. I always wanted to go there. Traveling, right? When you're intoxicated all the time and you spend all your time drinking, you're not very mobile,
Yeah.
right? So
Hope not.
traveling is big for me right now. We like to paddleboard. We like to get up to the reservoirs and get on the lake. Just anything but what you used to do.
Mm-hmm.
Anything but what you used to do.
Really positive activities, social.
Positive activities. You have to replace your neural pathways, get off work, go to the couch, drink a beer, drink 2 beers, drink 10. That's what you did every day. You have to replace those
there's a
neural
lot of
pathways.
truth
You got
to
to
that.
find something else to do. You got to replace those activities.
What do you do during your hours at Action in the evening?
We start on just kind of a big group therapy session. We check in, like if it's Monday, we'll do a check-in. How was your weekend? Any triggers, anything you need to talk about? What was your emotion for the weekend? Did something come up? Was something bothering you? Whether it's positive or negative, and we just talk about it.
So you have a good process group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it sounds like at 147 days, you're giving it all you got. What does the future look like for you, Kolby?
The future, it looks bright. I'm excited for the first time in a very long time. I wake up, I'm happy, I'm ready to go. I wake up and I go get it every day, just every single day. Sobriety's key. Put my sobriety first every single day, because if the moment you put something above your sobriety is the first thing you'll lose. If you put something in front of your sobriety, that is what you lose first.
That's why it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, Dr. Matt, is that I've got to give my addiction its respect.
Yeah.
Because I know how powerful it can be. So I acknowledge it, and I acknowledge it every day. And you know what I mean?
I think I've said it before, like when we first started doing this podcast, some of our earliest guests said, I put my sobriety above, God, family, work, everything. And I remember sort of being rubbed the wrong way by that statement, because we're taught to maybe prioritize those other things.
Yeah.
But the
Family and God should be above addiction.
of everything, right?
I mean, for most people, that is our why.
So Kolby, why would you say that you have to? What's the key? Why do you have to prioritize it above all those other things that we're taught normally to prioritize as number one?
Because if I don't focus on my recovery every single day, then I can't prioritize my family. I can't prioritize God. If I'm a mess, if I don't take care of me, then I can't prioritize
You lose it
the
all,
other
right?
things. I'll
You
lose
it all.
everything.
Yeah. And I get that. And I've got that for years now. But I remember that was kind of a new concept to me, hearing that from somebody in recovery. And it makes a lot of sense.
You know how many moments I had with my ex-wife or above my children sleeping, where I would be like, I'm not going to drink tomorrow for you. And I meant it.
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
But
It's heartbreaking to think of, right?
yeah, I mean, it breaks my heart. But knowing now that I could have never stopped for them, that's not how this disease works.
Yeah.
By me stopping, I get to have them and I get to be with them. But
Yep.
that's not how this disease works.
It's not. It's not. If you do not do it for yourself, and I think that's the biggest misconception with treatment. You might go for your wife. You might go for your kids.
Job.
You might go for it because your job makes you. You might go because the law enforcement makes you. You get in
lot of
trouble.
that, yeah.
And that's predominantly the most reason people end up in rehab, I would say, is the law. And that's why it fails, I think, so many times for so many people. That's why there's round 1, round 2, round 3, maybe 4. Because you have to go for yourself. Mm-hmm. You have to do it for yourself.
Amen. I think that's a perfect place to stop. Kolby, thank you very much. And if you don't mind, we'd love to have you back.
Anytime.
And keep talking to us throughout your
excellent.
journey.
Yeah.
I always find it fascinating because we've had people in here with 20 years of recovery, 10 years, 5, me with 6, whatever it may be. You know what I mean? But the guys coming out right now that are fighting the fight, you know what I mean? It gets a little easier. Sometimes it gets harder, but for the most part, it gets easier.
I think it takes everybody who shares their story on our show, it takes courage to do that.
There's right now a guy listening to this podcast who's got 130 and who wants to get to 147.
Yeah. It's a special kind of courage to come on when you're just right at the beginning of the race. And so thank you so much, Kolby, for coming on. And yeah, let's have you back in a few months and check in and see how you're doing.
It's like starting in the marathon next to Team Zimbabwe saying, I'm going to win this thing.
Good luck.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Well, we'll see what happens. Thank you for stopping by and listening to another episode of Project Recovery. In case you forgot, Project Recovery is what?
It's a KSL podcast.
Give him hell, Kolby.